Hi, it's Bill Warren here, and in this video I'm going to go over COVID-safe ventilation and airflow strategies to reduce your risk if you're going to have an indoor gathering for Thanksgiving or the holidays that are coming up and having a lot of folks over, family and friends, for dinner and socializing. I agree with the CDC that this is not a good thing to do. It is a high chance for having super spreader events, in large part because this is going to involve times when people are not able to wear masks because they're eating and drinking, and they're also going to be socializing a lot and doing a lot of talking and having mirth and all these wonderful things, which right now are not so good to be doing. And what I really hope is that you don't use these techniques that I'm going to show you to change your mind and then decide, okay, we can do this indoors. So this video is only for those people that have already decided that they're going to go through with this, and I'm going to help you do it as safely as possible. I'll start with the preliminaries. If you're going to have an indoor gathering, everyone should self-quarantine before they get there, and they should get tested before. Those would be very important things to do. You would also want to reduce the number of people you're inviting and exclude sensitive populations like old folks like myself or someone with respiratory problems, anything that would make infection much more worse and perhaps life-threatening. You should not just rely on, I'm going to just keep all the surfaces cleaned in here a lot. I'm going to just be cleaning all the time. CDC and Dr. Fauci said that this is not working. Droplets, once they land, they become, it's been hardened in research to see that those things are viable anymore. So cleaning surfaces is not the solution here, nor is it that you say like, well, I've got some UV lights up in the up there, and I'll be fine with that, and I've got a HEPA filter at the main air handler. That's not enough. Those things, and I'll just open a window here and there for 10 minutes out of the hour, and I'll be fine. None of those are going to be effective strategies. So you have to have a comprehensive strategy, and you need to look at it like this one. The first thing you need to do is, in your house, you need to understand how air moves in it. And this particularly has to do with when you have a central air conditioning, heat pump, furnace system that brings air up to the system, heats and cools it, brings it out to the supply vents, and that airflow goes back to the returns. You need to trace what those patterns are. In my situation, I have two supplies in my dining and kitchen, and over here is my central return. So this means that whenever the thermostat is calling for heating and cooling, or the thermostat is in the on position, the airflow is going to be coming from my kitchen down this way and over to there. Now I've showed a seating pattern here at my extended table, my lovely extended table, which we will not be using this year yet. I've said, well, let's try to apply this simple distancing requirement. Let's do more than 6 feet. So we're going to have just our son over, say. My wife and I are going to sit down here, and we're going to put him up there because we're not sure that he's been behaving himself with COVID-19. He has been, but just for the purpose of this, we'll say he hasn't been. So boy, a lot of distance more that you're fine here. No, this is the worst seat in the house right now because I've got an airflow pattern coming in that supply coming down here, and this is the downstream location. So in COVID-19, you're always trying to stay out of the downstream of somebody that might be infected. And if he was up there and infected, then this is the worst seat I could be having. So this is why we want to know our directional airflows, and we're going to rearrange our seating based on that. And our seating here would be, we would not want to have someone that much intensely downstream. Okay, so you're going to find out where those airflow patterns are, and then you're going to work with those. You're going to watch these other videos to get more on this, but I'm going to stop on that one. Once I know what my directional airflows are, then I can come up with a ventilation strategy. And a ventilation strategy that I think is the best is one that does direct exhaust to the outdoors, such that the people sitting at this table, that anything that they exhale that is COVID-19 droplets and aerosols are going to be exhausted out as quickly as possible and away from the center of the house. And in my case, that leaves us to the kitchen. And I have two options up there. Let's go and look at those now. So here's option one. I got to talk loud because it's my range hood. I've got it running at high speed. Airflow's going up, holds the paper up, I've got exhaust. I'm going to turn that off, it's kind of loud. And that's what I don't like about that. It's just too loud for what I want to have happening over here, which is pleasant conversation at my dining room table when the fan is turned off and the piece of paper is falling down. I like option 2, which is to put a window fan into a window and use that as my exhaust. When I do that, again, the paper is going to be pulling, the airflow is going out, directly out, and now I'm going to be able to create an airflow pathway coming up from the kitchen away from that table and directly to the outside. One of the things right off is I like about this is it's a lot quieter and I have more control over the fans. With this double fan setup, which costs about 40 to 60 bucks on Amazon, I can have 6 different levels of speeds on that. The way I put the fan in is I want it to be fairly tightly installed. So you see that I put some painter's tape here, green painter's tape, and I've stuffed the crack with some napkins so that we don't get air spilling coming back in, which will happen when you run a fan like this. If that air comes directly in and it's cold outside, it's going to make you feel cold right here. So this is the setup that I like and I recommend you do. I have lots more of information about using window fans for exhaust, but this is going to give us now a directional airflow pathway coming away from the table. And let's go look at the table now. So the table setup is here, and now our airflow pathway is coming this way and away from the center of the house. So droplets and aerosols produced at the table are going that way and right out the window. So I've set my ventilation exhaust air pathway. Very good. Now I can go in and fine tune it. And what I want to do here is, since I have this last supply air vent at the end, and I'm going to be running my air handling unit with the thermostat setting on continuous, air is going to be coming out of this and fighting against this airflow exhaust air pathway. So to solve that problem, since it's just the one supply, I'm going to close off that supply. So I have less competing airflows, and I'm more sure that my directional airflow is going up this way. The fan and the window is running. I've got ventilation air exhaust running this direction. And what I've done here is completely reverse the airflow pattern that was provided by supply air to return air going the other way, such that this chair at the end of the table, which was the worst location before because it was downstream of the airflow, is now upstream of the airflow, and it's the safest seating location at my extended table. I've also done something else, as you can see down here, as I put in a circulating fan blowing this way. So this creates, it reinforces the airstream to the max, such that our airflow is coming straight up the table in between the two sides, and that's where my seating would be. So I would take, this seat is fine right here. Only thing is it could be discomfort because the air is blowing right on it. You feel a lot less here, and this is how I would do my seating pattern. I'd have everybody seating this way, and then an airstream between them for maximum safety, going directly to a window exhaust. It's a lot of airflow, plenty of, we can drop it down more if we need to, so long as we maintain that direction. That's the thing we want to do, and what's going to govern how much we can move is basically how cold it is outside. And now we got to figure out where we're going to get this outdoor air into the house to make up this outdoor, this room air that we're directly exhausting to the outside. When that window exhaust fan is running, it's exhausting cubic feet of air out that. And for every cubic foot of air that it pulls out, it has to bring in outdoor air through some other place. On a cool day like today, all my doors and windows are closed. So the air that's coming in has to come in through these kind of tortured air pathways through air leakage sites in my house, because it's been retrofitted to be pretty tight, because that's the kind of guy I am. So it's having a little bit of a hard time getting for that. So 1 cubic foot of air out means 1 cubic foot has got to come in, otherwise I just create pressure differences. Well, I really want to make sure I've got my airflow going. So in my house, I think I have to come back here and ensure that I've got that airflow pathway, and I'm going to do that by opening a window and doing what we call creating a path of least resistance to airflow. Now we don't have to come around the nooks and crannies. Now it's just coming directly in this window. And it's coming in right now. I can clearly feel it right here because it's cool outside. It makes me a little cool right here. I might want to have a sweater on if I was standing here for a while. As the weather gets colder, that's just going to increase. And at some point, it's going to be real cold in here. Is that going to be acceptable? Well, yes, for while we've got 5 hours or 6 hours, while we have people here socializing, we'd rather have them not get COVID than not be, and we'll just not use this room. As this air goes through the house, though, it will start mixing with the other air, and that where it's been heated and cooled. So by the time it gets down to the dining room area, it's going to be pretty much at temperature of the thermostat. So we're in pretty good shape. If we need a little bit more, I go over to the thermostat. I raise the temperature from 70 to 71, or maybe even 72, and that should just about do it. Will we be able to use this room for socializing in it? No, and I don't want to do that anyways. I want to keep everybody where I know my air pathways, and I want them to be in a good direction. This is not a good place to be because if I am exhaling droplets and aerosols, they're headed to the main body in the house, and that's what I don't want to do. Now, there's another reason that we want to use an open window strategy, and that is if we thought we didn't want to have pollutants coming in. So in this situation, we could take another window fan. This time it's a $20 window box fan. Put a MERV 13 filter on it and install it in this window, and then seal it up like I have in my instructions on how to do window fan installations. And then we turn this fan on, and now we have now a fan-assisted airflow pathway in, of very clean air coming in, such that if you had outdoor allergen reactions, much less chance of that. This is a better system actually than even just using a room air cleaner. Say hi to Max, our new rescue. On a serious note, if you're planning by any reason at your holiday gathering to be trying to run a wood stove or burning logs in a fireplace and using my window exhaust fan strategy, you really should use that open window in another part of the house to make sure you have sufficient airflow for that exhaust that you're going to be creating to get rid of the COVID contaminated air. We don't want you to get in a situation with a tight house construction without a window open to make that up, such that you would end up backdrafting, having air come back down a flue, bringing wood smoke into the house, or worst case would be is actually breathing something you couldn't even tell, which would be carbon monoxide. For sure you're going to be socializing as well as eating. And in my house, it's small enough that we use the dining kitchen area and the living room space as well. If we're in here socializing, I want to have a COVID strategy to deal with aerosols and droplets. I want to use the same that I did in the kitchen, and I want to have direct exhaust out that end window that's an operable window. Now that's a casement and it's narrow, and you can see that the fan doesn't really fit in there very well. So you'll have to look at my video on how to do window installs in all sorts of windows to figure out how to do that. But it's going to be another tight fit fan in that installation there. And when we're eating, I would have this fan system off and shut down. And then when we're socializing, I would have both fans running just to deal with the amount of ventilation here, and also depending on how cold it is outside. Milder weather, both fans just run, and I don't have to think about it. Super cold weather, I'm going to switch back from fan to fan and maybe direct people in and out. That's the best way of dealing with this because I just don't have the size in this room to get people as spread out as I would like them to be. Once again, I'm going to be competing with some construction noises, but bear with me. Well, we've done our directional airflow and we've done ventilation, and now we want to address air circulation. Air circulation is good. Air circulation, if I am exhausting droplets and aerosols, if I can dilute that before I remove it, all the better, so that somebody downwind of me is going to be breathing less than more. So to do that, I keep my thermostat simply in the on position, run it continuously while peaks are here. That's my best chance. That does mean that some of these aerosols are going to get picked up by the return, then they're going to go through the whole ductwork system and then come out, but it'll be a much diluted dose, and newest research says that by the time it goes all the way through that system, it's usually not viable. So that's good news. So I think that's good, as well as running your circulating fans in spaces like we did at the dining room table or in the living room. You saw that I had a ceiling fan up there. We could use those if it's tolerable, in cold weather, that is, say. Then I come to my issue here, which I'm standing in my hallway, which I call a confining space. It's only 3 feet wide and it's 8 feet high. And that means that if I have directional airflow through here, which I do, that a dose of droplets and aerosols coming down here would be confined within this shape, so that I would get a larger dose where I instead being in my large dining room, which is much wider. Less dose there, more dose here. That's my concern with this. So I don't want you to have that happen. So my way of dealing with that is to say, folks, I don't want you to congregate in here. I know you maybe like to look at the photos on the wall or something like this, but it's not a good place to do that. And I would remind people through the time that they're here that that would be a problem. The other confining space that we have is my bathrooms, and so let's go and talk about those. With large gatherings, people are going to need to use the bathrooms, and we need a COVID strategy for them. If somebody comes into the bathroom and is exhaling droplets and aerosols, they leave, the next person comes in, there's nothing that's really happened to that load, so the dose is going to stay intact. So what we need to do is we're going to use your bathrooms with the bathrooms that have exhaust fans and not just windows. Turn the exhaust fan on and leave it on continuously. Check to make sure that it's actually exhausting air. Once you've done that, then you know that everything's working, and that's your safest plan. Exhaust the bathrooms continuously. The best thing about this window exhaust strategy is we get to have an airstream that's going directly to the outside, transporting the vast majority of droplets and aerosol productions. The other great removal strategy is to use filtration, and that's exactly what the mask is. When I wear the mask, it protects you when I exhale. And now we know that the mask also protects me from you when you exhale. So it's acting as a filter in two different directions. In this situation with holiday gatherings, eating, drinking, mirth, and so forth, we're not counting on the mask all the time. So we really need to supplement that. And the best next step to do that is to use room air cleaners, HEPA filter room air cleaners. Just like we did in the window for the whole house setup. You could do this if you don't have one. This you could put together for about $50. Just some painter's tape, MERV 13 filter, and a $20 box fan. My recommendation is to use a room air cleaner in each large room that you're in. And if it's a super large room, wide open house plan, you might use 2 in that room. So that's a good thing to think about. And then, which I talked in my preliminaries, you could also go up and have a good MERV 13 filter on your air handler and UV lights. They're secondary removal systems, but they're fine to use in this situation as well. And there you have it. That's my strategy for doing indoor gatherings for the holidays and reducing your risk as much as you can with more advanced techniques that I've just showed you. I still think it's a bad idea. I say that one more time. And I just thought I would end by reading something that I just read online today. Weddings are scary right now. I didn't think that almost half of our wedding guests were going to get sick, the bride said. You're in the moment. You're having fun. You don't think about COVID anymore. 85 people attended this wedding. 2 weeks later, 32 guests have tested positive. 3 of the grandparents are included, and 2 of those grandparents have been to the emergency room due to severe symptoms. Maybe we should have a picnic instead? Well, that's it for this one. I'm Bill Warren. Please pass this video on, and we'll see you the next time. Stay safe, stay sane.